Hello again, everyone. Edwin Leonard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the transit south node, sextile, or trine one's natal Mercury. Now, this transit may manifest in what you're going away from, your past, what you're naturally proficient in, what could be affecting you to your detriment, being in harmony with your communications, what you're learning, what you're assimilating information. I'm going to elaborate and expound on that. Well, the thing is, it's not about what's affecting you to your detriment. Really, truly being in harmony with your communications, but you may be able to articulate better what is actually adversely affecting you at this point in time. If you have your transit south node in Pisces in the 11th house as an example, could be some betrayal or deception or duplicity by a friend. Maybe you deluded yourself, some matter with some group, club, or organization is another example. It's about a time to where whatever you're going away from, these are either that is something you may be able to communicate better, speak up about your past. Could be people prominent in your past. Maybe it might be more harmonious communications with those people at this point in time. And what you're naturally proficient in at this time may be able, something that you're able to think about more and positively, and be able to again to it could be learning that it's a time where you might be learning more about what you feel you have some natural ability in. Keep in mind though, the south node, this transit, it's not going to, of course, it doesn't supplant or replace your natal south node placement. The natal south node placement stays with you, during the course of your life. That is something that's a constant. This is some energy that you'll be getting during the time, positive blending of the south node with with the natal Mercury, but it's during really the course of the transit, but your natal placement is always going to be there, and it's all, and you're always, I mean, to some degree, going to be, manifesting that energy. I mean, the North Node is what you're supposed to be emphasizing in the second half of life, but the South Node is still, that energy is still with you constantly. And the thing is, too, going back as far as this transit goes, it can also be a time where, whatever you're trying to leave behind or go away from, siblings, cousins, neighbors, people that were prominent in your early education. And those people can be beneficial to that. They may be helping you, get away from a negative situation in your life. Um, if you have, let's say, if the transit south node is in Leo in the fourth house as an example, it could be dealing with some domineering or overbearing home or family member. It might be maybe an extravagant home situation, as another example. And this transit, it's just some people might wonder, well, okay, how does this differ from the conjunction transit? Well, the thing about it is, the difference, they're comparable, but they're not exactly or precisely the same. The sextile or trine aspect, it's more flowing, it's auspicious, it's a positive blending of the transit of the south node and the natal Mercury. But when you have the conjunction aspects, are neutral. They can have good and bad qualities in them, and they're intensifying and integrating. And the conjunction can also be where it can be so intensifying where it can sometimes be obsessive or fixated, where energy, where you're like in this example, you might be, it could be just focusing so much on trying to, for example, trying to get away from some negative communications in your life, where or being able, or just focusing so much on communication, which you might feel, is a very good natural ability at this time, or to the point, to the exclusion of other things, where you become oblivious to other things during your life. And this is something where it can be, again, it can be very intensifying to the point where you might, not be focusing on other things. And that's really, what the difference, is between like a conjunction, this example, conjunction, or a sextile and trine aspect of this transit. Now, another thing is, now it can also be, positive time as well. From going away from, if you have any issues that are anatomically connected with Mercury, such as the hands, the arms, nerves, lungs, or breathing. This is a time, if you procrastinated or hesitated on any of those matters, this could be an opportune time to deal with it, to be able to get away from it. And remember, when you have the transit south node making a sextile or trine to your natal Mercury, you have the transit north node making a sextile or trine to the natal Mercury as well. So it's a time where it's a very auspicious transit. Like if there's any issues that have to be addressed and confronted with what's anatomically connected with Mercury, what I just described, it's an opportune time to be able to deal with it. And it's also a time as well where, when you have this transit, if there's something, affecting you to your detriment, it may be easier to deal with that and get away from that. And it might be, through, mobility or a short journey. It could simply be, a very, positive and auspicious time to just traverse, to another. It could be another city. There might be some people or something that might be, affecting you adversely. Say for example, in your current location, when you have this transit, it can be a very positive time for being able to say, okay, I'm going to leave, this behind, in this neighborhood that may be affecting me negatively, and I'm going to, move forward. Keep in mind again that when you have this transit of the south node making a sextile or trine to natal Mercury, you're going to have the transit north node making a sextile or trine to the natal Mercury. If the transit south node is making a sextile to your natal Mercury, as an example, the transit north node will be making a trine to your natal Mercury. And if the transit south node is making a trine to your natal Mercury, the transit north node will be making a sextile to your natal Mercury. So it can also be a time as well, going back, into your past, people that were prominent in your early education. If you have let's say if the natal Mercury is in the zodiac sign Cancer, there may be people that were Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Ascendant people, or simply ones that embody Cancerian characteristics. It could be people that were very nurturing, sympathetic, empathetic, protective, ones that might have been a little bit, maybe sensitive to criticism and ridicule. As some examples, introverted people. Now, anyway, another way this transit could manifest, it could be a time where it's positive for going away from, which is the south node. It could be some form of negative communications, which is Mercury. If say if the natal Mercury is in Libra, it could be being, communications where, that have to do, just being, persuasive, maybe over the wrong things, or expressing some kind of superficial charm, or ones where you've just been very, ambivalent or indecisive over certain matters. And it can also be, a time as well where this transit can be auspicious to do something that you're naturally proficient in, which is the south node, and be able, to speak and write about it, which is Mercury, being able to articulate this at this time. Let's say if the if the transit south node, for example, is in Sagittarius, it can be writing about, being able to articulate matters associated with sports. It could be the outdoors, publishing, advertising, religion, philosophy, as some examples. And also, too, people that are prominent in your past, which is the South Node, may be in more in harmony and agreement with what you are learning at this time, which is Mercury. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that. I'm back now. Anyway, let's say if the natal Mercury is in Virgo, what you're learning at this time may be connected with nutrition, fitness, could be statistics, it could be matters with health and hygiene. As some examples, being able to compartmentalize things, diagnose things such as a vehicle, as in some examples. And also, too, this could be propitious to leave behind, which is a south node, and focus on, it could be a short journey, which is Mercury. Now, let's say if the natal Mercury is in Scorpio, the short journeys may be very secretive, ones you have a lot of passion for and desire for. They may be mysterious ones. It may be ones in which you're learning about, or connected with occult related issues, which can include astrology. Um, so those are some, anyway, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, I will learn saying stay well.